They're good, they raise a lot of money, from what I assume, And we can ask them to sell.
Oh, yeah, welcome.
Yeah, the food was good, like your hair.
Oh,
I'm old, I can put rainbows in my hair.
No.
We would have never go, or one of us would never go, so. I think the kids have. Are you ready for this
I'm
weekend?
sorry, taking a job. Oh.
That's perfect pair.
All
right.
I'll be tomorrow.
Are we doing it left from, are you guys taking it too?
Hey.
Yeah, remember when I used to maybe do presentation type, like, just or whatever, and send you over to them.
Make them up to fly at a conference, but I might not do it. Oh, it's just so we can just share.
Okay.
I will. All right, wonderful.
It is, and then I.
Hi, everyone. We're gonna go ahead and get started. We have a lot to cover and we have some people that need to leave early, so I'm gonna try to push us to the good stuff as quickly as humanly possible. So I'm gonna call this meeting of the Business and Community Promotions Board to order at 2:02. I'm gonna do a roll call, please. Hans Marsh.
Here.
Lindsay Valdez. Here. Tara Worley. Here. Lana.
Here.
Katie.
Yeah.
Steve.
Here.
All right, we have a full board in presence today. I need a motion to approve the agenda. So Lindsay, I need a second. I'll second. All right, Lana. All right, wonderful. And then did everybody have a chance to review the minutes of the March 17th meeting? Are there any questions? Okay, I need a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion.
Steve, and a second.
I'll second.
Katie, second. All right. Do we have any public comment? I don't have anybody pre-signed up on my end. Anybody here want to make official public comment? Okay, good to go. So the director's report is very long this month, so good on you for those that read it. A lot to cover, a lot has been happening. So I've met with most of the board members multiple times, going through a lot of this stuff. I know a lot of people are here to really dive deep into the branding, so I don't want to spend too much time going line by line in my director's report. One area I do want to talk about that's important that I do have an action item to talk about is our participation in the 2025 Outdoor Festival, which happens in downtown Denver. Both Georgetown, Clear Creek Tourism have been approached to go to this festival.
So the Argo.
So as the Argo, as has Comba also been approached. We kind of thought it might be wise to pool us all together instead of us all having separate booths. Jess from Georgetown has invited us to collaborate and go together. Tourism has not yet voted on whether or not they want to participate from the level of splitting the cost. However, I do think it would be wise for us to go talk about our new branding, gain some momentum on people following us on social, share about the Virginia Canyon Mountain Park reopening. It will be right in line with the first part of June. The camp reopening, we might even have dates on that.
What is the cost?
The cost is $5,000 for the booth. It is 25,000 attendees last year. They're expecting an increase in attendees this year. If we're splitting it 2 ways, it would cost 2,500. If we split it 3 ways, including the tourism in that ask, it would be about 1,600 each. So we are hoping that tourism is willing, and maybe Lana can speak a little tiny bit. We don't know how the board will go, but it is going to be talked about with tourism.
Yeah, we chatted about it very briefly, but we were just waiting for more information, so we didn't have a vote or anything, so, but, nobody seemed opposed to it, so.
Yeah.
And Jess is on our board, so, I mean, she's already committed. So.
Yeah, my thought would be at that point in time, we'll have hopefully with approval from the board, we'll have some branding and messaging that will be up on our socials. So we could be increasing people by asking them to follow our new social accounts, doing a Clear Creek County giveaway by collecting some email addresses, and being able to give some things away if there's specific businesses that wanted to give away swag or information. It would basically be just an engagement with the public kind of thing, as well as with additional brand partners. So there's a lot of additional brand partners that would be there that would be interested in featuring Idaho Springs as a venue for future events, as well as outdoor recreation companies that would be wanting to participate as well.
And so for the swag type of stuff, you would just put out like a call to people that if they were interested in contributing something, they just gave it to whoever's managing the booth.
Yeah, so it would be Jess and I committing to going. I have that free space, so Jess and I could man the booth for the weekend, go together, take it in shifts so that she and I both have breaks. So that's kind of the ask for you guys to consider. Otherwise, in the director's report, there's not any other big things that you guys haven't heard me talk about a bunch of different things. Guy was able to work with me on a new way to present sales tax trends and insights. So that's all also now going to be included in the director's report moving forward. So you guys will be able to see kind of a summarized version of where we are with sales tax. And then Andy and I are working on getting new traffic trend data so that we have correct traffic trend data so that we're looking at I-70 numbers in a good way that is verifiable. Right now, that data is being re-reviewed because there was several municipalities that raised a red flag and said, we're not sure if this data is accurate. Correct, Andy?
That's right.
Yeah. So we're waiting on that to be resolved. I was invited to be a part of the Floyd Hill Project Public Information Leadership Team. Another fun acronym to learn. So I am yes, PILT, yes. I'm gonna be doing my onboarding and training with them with the new director of the I-70 Coalition. So he and I will be doing our onboarding and training in May, and then I will be on those meetings. They'll be now meeting monthly for the remainder of the project, now that they have a full team again. Any questions on my director's report or on outdoor festival? Cool, okay. So then we'll just move on. How do you guys feel about participation in the outdoor festival? Do we want to do it? Any thoughts or concerns on it budget wise? It would just come out of our marketing line.
Is the money there?
Oh, yeah.
I think it's great idea.
Yeah, season's
Yeah,
on point.
perfect timing with rolling out the branding, really great. Clientele, I've been to that before and definitely seems like the type of people that we would want with and a big reach.
Yeah, big reach.
Should we, assuming the branding is all ready to go, invest some budget line item dollars into getting some booth materials, things like that?
Yeah, I would think we would probably, I think it would be a pretty low hanging fruit number. Like, I don't think we would need to spend a ton. My ask of tourism is that we would go under the Clear Creek banner, so that it wouldn't be branded Idaho Springs or Georgetown, it would be branded Clear Creek. And then we could represent within the booth each one of our kind of sections and areas we're highlighting. That way we could have stuff from Argo, we could have stuff from Combo, we could have stuff for our new branding. So it might be wise for us to, invest in $1,000 or so around that.
I think it all sounds.
Okay. Well, if everybody's good with it, then I just need a motion to approve it.
I will move to approve our participation in the festival.
All right, and a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
I
All right. Wonderful, okay, so.
See, I'll reach out to Cass and just see if we can wrap this up.
Yeah, and again, we're not asking, I feel comfortable with Jess representing both Clear Creek and Georgetown. I don't think that in this way we're competing. Again, I think this is a very complimentary offer, and to be able to split it with tourism to bring the cost down to that like 1,600 we could easily represent tourism, have the guides there, have some other stuff there. I think and Jess is easy to serve as a representative of tourism and Georgetown. I don't think there's a conflict there on my end anyway. Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Anna. Okay, so why we're all here is to talk about our branding, the Visit Idaho Springs branding. This has been a project that a lot of people have worked on. So some people have seen this stuff, some people have not. Some people have seen versions of this. This is the final version. Now, most of what you're gonna see presented are mock-ups of the brand in action. Please remember that none of this stuff is finalized. None of these are official approved ads, or this is exactly how the brand is going to appear on the website. This is just examples of how we can use the brand and the brand design.
Is the brand approved?
That's what we're talking about tonight.
Okay.
This is the brand, this is to present the official brand to the board for approval and adoption. That will then move us into the content creation, asset development, website development stage of the project, as well as move us into the wayfinding grant that we have been awarded as well. So this will move us from that into that stage of the project. There is some revisions that could happen after adoption as well, some fine tuning of certain things. However, this will give us the adoption to be able to start working with the brand assets and moving them into things like content creation, website development, social media, those kind of things that we've been kind of holding back on because we don't have a brand yet. We have worked with Nate from Ember on this project, and he has been an excellent asset for us so far. And we've really come a long way. Many of you have seen the versions to get us to where we are. I do want to just remind you guys, this isn't about a discussion about revisions or how we might change this. This is showing us where we are and then wanting to see if the board overall is comfortable adopting the vision as it stands. I'm going to turn the floor over to Nate. Okay, 1 second. I'm going to turn.
There it
okay.
is, unmuted.
All right, we can hear you.
Perfect. Do I have the big screen? Does everybody see my face yet or no?
You have the screen.
Be careful,
and
Nate.
You can see your screen and then
Yes, let me grab that. Audience. All right. Let me know when you have big letters on your screen.
we have it on your screen.
Perfect. Yeah, and I just wanted to kind of speak to what Sadie was saying too. The wet cement is something that we like to say that this should give us the foundation, but by no means, if you see something, it's not printed, it's not anything like that yet. These are true mock-ups of what we could do with the brand, but we don't need to look at the fine details yet. So really just the kind of icon mark, the logo mark, the colorways, the feel, that kind of stuff is what we really want to be focused in on today. Perfect. All right. Should we get going?
Yes, please.
Perfect. Well, we'll just start. We'll just get right into it. This should be probably 15 to 20 minutes. I don't know what the protocol will be, but I would say we kind of go through this and kind of hold all reactions, questions, hands, or anything like that until the very end. I don't even know if there's open discussion at the very end. No idea, but yeah, we'll just kind of hold those for the end.
Perfect. That sounds like a plan.
Great. Okay, so let's start. So again, after a ton of hard work, long hours through the workshop to brand strategy, Sadie and I have done a lot of back end findings from both the workshop that we did, the community engagement and involvement. We have kind of fine-tuned and fine-combed everything to kind of create a compelling, visual identity and a system that feels authentic and very true to Idaho Springs. Oh, yeah, already having problems. Didn't even click on the right page. All right, so who is Idaho Springs? This is kind of our little setup here. So Idaho Springs has always been a place for discovery. From the first gold strike in 1859 to the adventurers and locals who continue to shape its story today. The town remains a gateway to the Rockies and a hub of authentic mountain experiences. And then from our strategy session, we uncovered kind of 5 brand pillars that revealed something, kind of deeper to us and who Idaho Springs is. And we kind of found that Idaho Springs isn't just another mountain town trying to sell an experience, but more it's a place that invites people into a story, right? One that's ongoing, one that's personal, and one that's deeply rooted and rich with history. So at the heart of this town is community, right? And community is all about people. So people who live here, people who grew up here, people who have passed through and never forgotten it, right? So every one of those people have a story, and together, those stories are what make Idaho Springs authentic. So that authenticity of story shaped basically everything that we built visually, and we drew inspiration, not from just other cities or tourist brochures or something like that, but from Idaho Springs itself, from the rich mining history to its ruggedness, its rawness, and the people that call it home. So those 5 pillars that I was just talking about are the foundation for everything that we created here. They're not just our values, but more it's a filter for how we speak, how we look, and how the brand or how we act as a brand, right? So those five pillars that we identified are authentic mountain town, the proximity to Denver, 30 minutes away, our outdoor recreation, our historic atmosphere, and our local community. So the brand, what does it look like? So we're going to start with the logo and then work through some other visuals. But first, before we show the logo, I kind of wanted to show something that is surprising but meaningful piece of inspiration. And that was the Colorado license plate. So not only for how it looks, but more for what it means and the tie that it actually has to the town. So for many, Idaho Springs, it started with a pull off or a detour or a stop or an unexplored discovery, right? So the plate kind of represents that personal journey of a story. And visually, it was bold and had that industrial look, right? Like the tools and the signs of the mining era. And it really became kind of that foundation for our mark and many other ties kind of throughout the visual brand that we kind of want to point at. So the mark. So we wanted to create something that definitely honored the town's rich history, right, while still feeling fresh and built to last. So with this mark, we wanted to pull from the structure of the license plate, but build on something new, right? Something that was bold, something that is practical and inspired by the very type that can be found, throughout the history of Idaho Springs, both in imagery from the past and signage that you can see still living today. So we wanted something that felt rugged, right? But refined. We wanted to build something that was grounded, but wasn't flashy. And again, something that was just built to last. And again, so for us, this was definitely more than a logo. It's a mark that basically speaks to the community's pride, its rich history, and the future for where we're going. And if we break it down, the type itself, it's very bold. It's industrial letter forms, and they're inspired by that kind of, again, old signage that we found throughout the town and old imagery. The stacked layout itself is clean, it's intentional. We can apply it to everywhere from signage to stickers, right? We have the placement of Colorado here at the bottom, and that grounds us, or grounds our identity to place, right? It reinforces that we're not just any mountain town. We're a Colorado mountain town. And the date that we kept on here is establishing Idaho Springs, legacy, right? We're proud of our history. We know where we came from. And so we wanted to represent that. So every piece of the mark itself, as we look through here, is something that we wanted to build for both the past and the future in mind. Oh,
Nate, can I ask a quick question? Are you showing alternative marks? I mean, are you showing, given all those principles that you would like to embody in the mark, are you showing different concepts, or are you just showing one concept?
This will be one concept that we've worked on and refined, and then we'll have alternate marks, but not for the primary mark. So we're calling this one our primary, and we're about to see secondary, tertiary, and all the things.
And we'll go ahead and keep all of try to keep all of the questions till the end, just so Nate can get through this, because we have some people, we have some people that have to leave relatively quickly, so we're trying to get through it. So just, if you can hold your questions. Thank you, Rose, I appreciate your participation.
Thank you. Okay, so some secondary, tertiary marks, again, to keep that brand, right? So we wanted to build a flexible system, something that can adapt for different use cases without losing its impact. So we have a tagline mark here on the left that has full name recognition, and our tagline itself that we've come up with, which is "Where Stories Live." In the middle there's a condensed version. It definitely keeps that spirit with more of a kind of utilitarian feel for tighter spaces. And then on the right, again, history, it's who we are, right? 1859 is a part of us. So it's bold, it's minimal, and it's great for merch, or again, like digital stamps or something like that. And again, each version that we have here is definitely designed to be instantly recognizable of Idaho Springs, but staying in line with that primary mark. And the icon mark. So the icon mark itself, we refined, and we worked, and we went through a lot of variations, and we wanted to create a simplified emblem that's built for stickers or signs, or again, various applications. And we had to use the iconic Charlie Taylor water wheel. It's a visual landmark for Idaho Springs residents and those who travel through the area, right? So we wanted to have something that represented movement. So we added in these waves that kind of represent that, again, that movement and the ongoing stories that are being told. We wanted to keep the established date, again, because that anchors us in our legacy. And then finally, the actual container around the outside is a shape that's based on a point of interest sign, something that you might find alongside the highway. And that's just kind of that nod to our wayfinding and our discovery routes. Simple, strong, and unmistakably Idaho Springs. Color palette, we pulled from the land, the tools, again, that we could find, being either rusting or patinaed out front, or just throughout town itself. We also pulled questions or colors, from the community engagement questionnaire Sadie sent out. So we ran through, we asked people, what do they think Idaho Springs should look like? And this was kind of a color palette that we interpreted from that as well. So these tones are timeless. They feel natural to who we are, and they're grounded to Colorado's landscape. So they're, again, designed here to feel very authentic to who we are. Typography that we looked at. So for typography, we chose this OC highway type. Its roots itself is built with signage and travel in mind. So it's a nod to our traveler, to the explorer, and that road tripper. These are the kind of people that we identified throughout our entire brand strategy, and so we kind of wanted to play back to that. So the letter forms themselves, are industrial, right? And at the same time, they're clean and highly legible. The type itself too, it kind of feels very historic without feeling old, but it feels very modern without feeling sterile. All right, the brand in action. So this is kind of, again, what we talked about up front. The next several slides are things that we've created to feel or see how the brand could come together and how it looks, but by no means is this final. These things are not yet printed, but it's something that we wanted to make sure that it felt very, very authentic to Idaho Springs. So this is a stationary mock-up. So this would be something, white papers, business cards, notepads, mailers or something. You can see here, we wanted to bring in that rugged mountain vibe without going full Breckenridge and Frisco, some of these towns that we identified as competitors and people who we did not want to be. A lot of the community engagement as well leaned into, we don't want to be a tourist town. So we really want to dive back into that authenticity and something that feels like it's been around for a while, but still feels fresh and clean. Some mock-ups of, maybe some banners, the flags that are flying, right? So instant brand recognition, big dates, that anchor us in our black and white imagery that we have, our historic photos, right? And then colored imagery of people doing those things that we're known for, right? The outdoor recreation from the river to the bike trails. So we needed a system that could span various looks, and that also kind of came up from the photos as well, right? We have old photography, and then we have new photography. So how do these things mix with one another? Type, we look through all sorts of stuff, and you could see kind of here how our type on top of this old Hot Springs van or truck that we found, and just kind of where that typography lives and how it was inspired by, that it's something that was around in the past, but we want to push it for the future. Some just random visuals. These, don't know what these are. These could be Instagrammable or Instagram posts or shares. They could be things, coasters, sitting in the breweries. There's just lots of different kind of variation of stuff. So we wanted to show that we have new photos like the upper left. We have placement photos like the river. We have VCamp showing up here, and we can do some illustrations. But this kind of idea, again, where we can bring all of this past and the future into kind of one visual compelling concept. Potential wayfinding, we want to look at what we have for the town, the things that are around. So this isn't meant to be big and flashy, big and bold, but it's meant to feel like who we are. But you can see how the typeface itself kind of lends to that. Some beautiful postcards, at the shopping stores, at the different various local shops. Potentially, again, how can we brand Idaho Springs, and then how can we, sell some of this stuff, and how does it look and feel? Potential website mock-up here. We've already looked at various websites for kind of the tourism boards. They all feel the same. And so what if we led with, a video? So this is meant to be a big play video, and it would get right into that rich history and authenticity of who we are. Few more. T-shirts, again, merch. What does this look like? Can we put this again at the local shops or at different areas, and kind of tie this throughout the entire city to kind of, again, sell a cohesive brand? Instagram, maybe we wanted to look at something that, again, mixes maybe something simple like this middle one with new photography like the left and the right. But always talking about placement. We have a ton of stuff in the brand strategy that kind of we'll speak to in a little bit, that talks about what kind of phrases and what things we do and how we actually speak to our or speak for marketing. DIA, maybe, need some fresh air. We got V Camp. You can see there's a little bit of that vintage play, but yet bring it into a modern typography and modern layout. Maybe a special coffee that is carried by the Frothy Cup, again, or other shops, something that, again, ties this whole thing together. We can speak to our heritage, but we can make it feel new, fresh, and modern. Notepads, pins, again, postcard, Where Stories Live, the Muddy Ogre cable car, it's Idaho Springs. We can talk about something that is new, but yet make it feel like it's been here forever. Again, authenticity. Just some matches. I don't know, probably a bad thing, but I really want these. They're just talking about, again, who we are, Rio, Colorado, Idaho Springs, only 30 minutes west of Denver. Talks about our elevation and again, our established date. 4 more. Posters, the Gold Rush, the legacy lives on. Again, who we are, you can see in the middle, and then mixed with, this is kind of taking new photography from the left to our illustration style to old photography on the right, and how all 3 of these blend together and still feel like they're the same brand. Maybe a magazine print. And then one of my personal favorites, this is a strong saying that we kind of, that we identified, and it kind of captures, or very much captures, who Idaho Springs is and the heart around the IS. For us, this is something that we've already talked about and explored potential options of having like that Instagrammable moment, some sort of iconic or, maybe memorable art installation that's built in the park, the Chicago bean or the I love New York, that kind of thing that we can plant there, and people can, as they're passing by, stop and get their pictures and spread the word for us. And then finally, just the marks side by side. So, a strong type mark here on the left. You can see now it feels very much like Idaho Springs. It honors that history while still feeling fresh and new. And then the icon mark here on the right, it's simple and it's unmistakably Idaho Springs. Last couple of slides, 3 more. I just wanted to add this in for everybody for some context. The tone of voice, something we worked on in the brand strategy, and this is something, again, Sadie and I have really honed in on and identified. But the brand itself is just as important as the voice and who we are. So something that we wanted to share is we want to speak like a local, right? Idaho Springs is not selling that experience, right? It's inviting into a story. So we want when we speak about it, we want to feel natural. We want to feel friendly and feel confident. Again, it's a local sharing a story. It's not a tourism board selling an experience. We're straightforward, we're engaging, and we're real. There's no marketing fluff. We're adventurous, but we're very much not extreme. That is a line that we have looked at and put hard in the sand of where we are at. Some of those key characteristics that tone of voice carries is, we're authentic and down to earth, right? This is real Colorado. We want to avoid over exaggeration or, again, tourism cliches. We're very much story driven and inviting. We want to make the visitors feel part of the experience. We want to encourage discovery, whether it be history, nature, or just our local culture itself. We want to be balanced and accessible. So we want to welcome everybody, right? We want to welcome everybody from the adventure seeker itself to our families, which is our secondary user. And then finally, we want to be confident and proud, right? So we're a small town. We have a big heart and a rich story, and we want to tell that, and we want to invite people into that story itself. We want to showcase our town's uniqueness, and we're not just going to sell generic, mountain town messaging by any means. finally, the last slide here, our tagline, again, where stories live. This is something that we worked on a lot, and it captures that past that we have, but it also invites people into the future. And that's all I have for you at this point. So quickly, again, this is just the beginning. We stated it, it's wet cement. There's still a lot of work to bring everything together, but we wanted to set up for that foundation, right? And most importantly, again, thank you. As someone who lived in Idaho Springs for 8 years and still has a house there, my wife has been there for 12 years. We couldn't be more honored and happy to really dive into this and look through a different lens and be a part of, shaping the future of Idaho Springs. So that's all I have for now.
Thank you, Nate. I really appreciate all of your time and effort. So I do want to keep our feedback pretty organized and focused first on the board and then open it up for members not on the board to give comment, but I do want the board to go ahead and have some initial time if you have questions for Nate or comments. We're going to go ahead and start with the board members and then kind of work our way out. If you are online and you would like to have a comment or a question, please go ahead and put that, use the raise hand feature so that we can do it in an orderly manner, and or put your comments, questions into the chat, and I will make sure that they get through into the chambers. So Andy, we're going to go ahead and start with you.
The brand with the water wheel and the flowing water, do we see that as a logo as well for the city?
Yeah, I mean, it's a, when you're talking about like a visit brand, this isn't going to replace the city seal or anything like that. This would be kind of the logo / the type mark. They could be formatted together to create something where the words and the are on their own, or they can function independently. When you're looking at more of a visit brand, you have a little bit more of a wider scope, and then this is just the logo, like a Nike swoosh or something like that. A little bit more flexibility to use it and play with it a little bit more.
Well, the reason I ask, the city doesn't have an official logo. We have the official city seal, but we've talked for quite a while about having a logo, which is tied into the branding now. And I'm just wondering if we ought to think about officially adopting or asking council to officially adopt this as a logo and then start using it, everything Idaho Springs.
Again, that consistency is something we've talked about, is having that consistency across the board. And, I think from a visit and a community driven perspective, having that as a consistent mark is definitely something that is worth it. Any other questions, thoughts, feedback?
Not right.
Okay.
I think it's really cool. I love the vintage aspects of it. I'm not 100% sold on where stories live. The live word is what got me where so my 15-year-old and I were having this conversation about what he wants to do when he graduates high school. And he said, oh, I think I'm going to hitchhike across the US because I'll have all these old man stories to tell. And I'm like, okay, but it just got me thinking. I've heard so many stories from people that have hitchhiked into this community back in the 70s and they've never left. And so I guess I'm leaning more towards like where stories start or where stories begin, because then you can have this entire marketing campaign that start your story, and you can pull all the old timers that have been here for a long time and have them document their stories, and you can have snippets of their stories as marketing pieces, but also ask visitors to start their story. It ties into the postcards. You could really, here, start your story, send a story about Idaho Springs to someone. And again, maybe have promos and things about people documenting their visits and talking about their story that they're creating here. And where stories live just sounds a little kind of dreamy, or I'm not Englishing very well today, so I apologize, but just where stories begin or where stories start kind of resonated with me a bit more. And then I loved the aspect, the marketing aspects, the advertisements. There was one in the airport, want some fresh air. I thought a cool thing would be like clear the air, and it could be this whole altitude campaign where you have the Argo cable cars, you have people zip lining, anything that's done in the air, and have a clear the air campaign. But anyway, those are some thoughts that came in. Again, really focusing on that kind of industrial component, that has been part of Idaho Springs history forever. I think it's really cool. Yeah.
Era,
Well, I can tell this has been really well thought out. Like a lot of aspects have been thought about and just seems like took a lot of time. I'd say I do really like the outdoorsy look, like the kind of like REI Forest Service, but then kind of newer outdoorsy look to it as well. I feel like there's just slightly not enough cohesion yet, but that might come with time, if that makes sense. Like it's getting really close to me understanding it being the same thing because we want it to be the same thing, which is like what a brand is. So I feel like it's super close to that, but it's not quite there, which would probably go along the lines of like how broad of a thing we're selling, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Like one less color or like one, just a little bit more tightening,
Mhm.
but I mean, obviously that's his profession and he'll know how to do it. That'd be my main feedback. I love this is Colorado. I love the like 1800s, but then there's also kind of a 20s / like 60s vibe with some of the postcard stuff. And maybe it's good that it is a little bit wide right now, because like once it gets more use, we can like see what's landing, what's working, and what people are liking. One little bit random critical detail. I feel like the mark with the water wheel is just like a little too thick for me. Like just a little too wide. Just to be like, because I do love that it sort of plays into a bike wheel too.
Mhm.
And I love the water, like the concept thing. So lots of great thought behind it, lots of clearly good work behind it, and I love where it's going, if that makes sense.
What do you mean by too wide?
It's just like a little too wide for me. Like,
Are you talking about like
Too
making it
bold?
look like spokes almost instead
yeah,
of
just
being
like
like
a
a,
little bit more narrow
like-
Okay.
would make me feel good, which
it
that's
reminds
just
me of
me, like,
macaroni a little bit, like a macaroni wheel.
Yeah.
Thinning it out a little bit and making it look more like a water wheel or more like a bike wheel,
yeah.
instead of it just being as thick as it is.
But as an icon, I think it's very, it's versatile, but it's also clear and it's easy to recognize, like all the good,
I like the play off the bike wheel. I hadn't even thought about that, but.
She said it, but I,
Yeah,
she said it, I
sorry.
saw it, yeah, no, I totally understand where you're coming from.
And then I also do like the idea of start, because it was start of the gold rush, start of the mountains.
Where the gold rush began,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
stories begin.
Yeah.
I think it's excellent.
Lana?
Yeah, I also really like where it's going, and I like the water wheel, and it makes sense what you're saying about narrowing it or making it look a little more, yeah. I don't like the abbreviation when it's like Ida Sprith or whatever, like to me, that's just odd, and I understand that we have a really long name of our town and trying to get it to fit, but for some reason to me, that just stuck out, that I'm just not sure that it's clear. And also with just the year, like when it's just 1859, does that really say who it is? And so, because it's like, well, do people, if we're trying to introduce, once you get a brand going and people know who you are, then maybe you would recognize it, but in the instance of getting it going, do people know what 1859 means?
Well, we're not gonna be able to use that right up
Right,
front anyway,
right,
because
right.
nobody knows what any of this is before you start using it and identifying it. So, yeah, I totally get your point.
And so that was just, I was like, oh, and yeah, but I really like the colors. I really like the vibe. And so I think it's going, like Paris said, in the right direction and something like that.
Okay, Katie, I would have to agree, and I was gonna say exactly what she said, just about where the gold rush began and, where stories began. I actually like that a little bit more, instead where stories. What was it? Stories.
Live where stories live,
Yeah, yeah, I think that resonates a little bit more just where it begins. And I do like the color scheme too. I'm done with it. I think it's going in the right direction, so. Here for it. Steve?
Great presentation as usual, Nate. One thing that same with the generation 1 or 2, when people think of Colorado and they don't live here and anywhere outside the Rocky Mountains, they think of mountains, I think. And I think that's our tourist hook for most of those people around the world. And even in the license plate, the iconic license plate which you're leading on, it's not the lettering, it's the mountains that are on the license plate. And we're also the gateway of missing a little bit of that, because most people, even if you're basing this license plate concept, the travelers are traveling here because of the mountains. Mostly, I feel, I know you have it in there tertiary.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like it's prominent enough, even on the logo mark. It was almost there on the first one, but there was some other problems. We fixed some other problems, but now we have a river and a water wheel and nothing mountainy.
Mhm.
And it's way back in the tertiary components.
Yeah.
My other question is on the pillars, are those pillars listed on that, in order of prominence to the data that was received? They're just on there? Because like some components like history was fourth or.
No, they're not,
list.
they're not in importance, they're just the top ones, they're not listed in order of like importance by any means.
Because it does also feel like the history starts in 1870. For this concept.
In what way, though?
Well, like the branding, the kind of, the way that it's kind of kitschy 70s look, in a good way, it's beautiful. But, again, mountains are kind of set back, history is set back a little bit. And even at the beginning of the presentation, and like what Nate said, it's all started with these license plates. Well, Idaho Springs is a lot longer than the license plates. So it's in there, the history is in the background behind all this stuff. It just may need to be brought forward a little bit more.
Great, so we have some initial comments online. Chip, it says he loves it. Gary Moore says that the icon mark, so that's Comba. Icon mark V2 is really good, much better. Josh Walker, says awesome adjustments. He was part of our original group. Shelly asked a question. I wonder who the intended audience is, tourists, adventurers, enthusiasts, new families, all. So Nate's gonna speak a little tiny bit to that. For me, just to clarify, what you aren't seeing outside of this is a very large brand strategy document that is 90 some odd pages long that goes into target user, tertiary user, all these different who they are, how do we talk to them, what problems are we solving for them, what is a voice, what is a messaging, that's a very intense document. And we're just talking about which the board has already seen. So go ahead, Nate.
Yeah. Probably should actually add that in for a little bit more context for everybody. So the primary user that, again, through the workshop, through the community that we identified, is this user called Social Sophie. She's 34 years old, and she lives down in Aurora. She's a marketing manager. She drives a Subaru. She has a boyfriend. She has a rescue dog that's a blue heeler. But again, for her, she's not the extremist by any means, as far as like biking. Like, she does bike, but she's not, GoPro and Red Bull or anything like that. So she's looking for, Idaho Springs is that perfect blend of scenic adventure, history, and that laid back charm. Again, it's close. It's only 30 minutes from Denver, and offers the break from the city without the full commitment of a weekend trip. So that's kind of the primary user that we identified. Someone who likes history, but isn't the history buff by any means. Someone who likes to go shopping and will spend money and go out and enjoy adventure, but again, not that Red Bull person. Our secondary user group, actually, in this one is the foster family. So this is definitely the kind of family oriented people that they live down in, I believe, Highlands Ranch. He's 40. she's 38. They have 2 kids. I mean, they are looking for that kind of weekend trip, right? The hiking and the biking and kid-friendly trails. They definitely want to kind of visit historic sites. These are the national park, kind of road trip family. They'll go to learn about something and have that experience with their kids. And then finally, our tertiary user, which is Trailblazer Travis. He's a 32-year-old IT professional living in North Metro Denver, and he's that Chevy Colorado guy. He's the V Camp guy. This is that person. He wants mountain bike trails or extremeness, if you will. He loves just kind of the ruggedness. He's here to ride and then grab a beer and go home. He's not that stay overnight person by any means. So again, that's that kind of extreme sport athlete that we want to get, but they're not our primary. So we want to sell to our primary, talk to our tertiary or secondary, and invite the tertiary user. So there's a lot of things that kind of weave around, but we have identified these users and specific marketing strategy and all sorts of stuff to kind of how to talk to those specific user when we actually start putting out, ads or whatnot.
Thank you, Nate. I'm
Of course.
gonna the open conversations I do. Lindsay has to leave, so I wanted to kind of get your initial thoughts on, I know we can't vote if you're not here, but kind of your initial thoughts on if we were to adopt this, knowing that we still have some fluidity after adoption, nothing is like set in absolute cement. Wanted to kind of get your tone on where you were.
Yeah, no, I love the direction that it's going, and just hearing everyone's comments, I see where Steve's coming from about the mountain aspect, so and again, I don't wanna, being someone that was married to a graphic designer, I don't wanna bombard Nate with going into the weeds, but maybe the shape that the water wheel's in could become a triangle similar to what the state does and kind of represent that mountain. But I see where you're coming from there, and then my other thing is just, we see a lot of mountain communities where they look the same. And so just making sure that we're really unique and standing out from those other communities. Because we definitely don't want to blend in, whether that's outside the box marketing campaigns that play off of our brand, or just things that are really creative and different, where it's not like live, play, laugh in whatever. But I really like the vibe and kind of where that's going. I think as far as the colors, it didn't bother me that, yeah, it does have that kind of 70s vibe with some of the colors. That didn't bother me so much. And when you look at the Forest Service and they've branded with that kind of pastel green or sea foam green and bright pink. And so I think we can get creative while keeping that historic piece with the colors and having fun with it. So
Okay, awesome. Thoughts. Awesome, thank you. I think online we had someone mention that maybe we put the elevation into the mark instead of the established date. That could bring in the mountain, and we do have variations already. We already do have a variation of that badge with elevation instead of established. That could be an alternative where it would say elevation, blah, 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 feet, where the established would be. So that might be a way also to pull the mountain into the mark with the elevation. And then knowing we do have that tertiary mountain that we can use. Nate, can you scroll back to a page that had the tertiary mountain in it? Probably one of the, right there. Yeah, that one. And Nate and I have a couple of versions where, and some of you have seen those on things where the mark, the mountain, and the logo are kind of all stacked on top of each other. So that creates a pretty busy thing to look at. So we want to be careful about how busy something might look, especially. But we do have components where we can even do a lesser defined mountain to kind of transparent it behind the Idaho Springs. So there are variations like that have been in the works with the component pieces. We just didn't want to present a bunch of stuff that was too busy. Chris?
First, I like it. I'm really pleased with which way it's going. I totally agree. I totally agree the water wheel needs to be thinned out a little bit. I'm almost thinking like the Chamber of Commerce logo, how it's kind of more stringy.
Mm.
I like that idea a little bit better, but I like where this is all going. To catch the mountains in there, what if we took the top of it and kind of did the line, like the top of the icon, and did a line, instead of it having a straight edge, had it be the view of what our mountains are,
Mm,
so that it's subtle, but it's there.
okay, yeah, definitely, I can see that. Okay, any other comments from in-house? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I like the going around the stories a lot, but I think we're really cutting ourselves off by using that 1859 date so constantly, because if you think of the story of where Idaho Springs and this valley is, we literally have had people coming through, stopping, staying over for thousands of years.
Mhm.
And I think we need to get that part of the story in there as part of our brand. It's like, oh, we didn't suddenly exist when some English speakers showed up, when the white people came. I think we need to maybe throw in a nod to the Spanish heritage. I mean, and one possible, playing off of Steve, he said, well, it only kind of seems like the picture started in the 70s. What happens if we go find like a 17th century hand-drawn map or an image of that, because the Rockies are on it, this valley is on it. It'd be written in Spanish and we can point where Idaho Springs is. And not being misleading, but it's like, this is the logical Rockies crossing point. The conquistadors were coming up and over and through here, so the Native Americans are here. So I think we really need to push that our story is much older than the gold rush.
Technically, Idaho is from Chief Idaho.
That, do you want me to go on a historical tyrant?
Let's not down too
Yeah,
much of a
okay,
rabbit hole
okay.
today.
I will not go on a
But,
tyrant,
I mean, I think those are definitely key components where
I
this
think
can be used really
yeah, I
well
think
in
our
marketing
story's older than
stories.
the gold rush or something like that.
Yeah.
Would be-
We could even use that as a part. I mean, again, the goal of this is to start featuring a lot of these stories on the website and being
Yeah.
able to have a place that's having an image, having a campaign where it's like, look at all of our stories. Where I like the where stories begin or where stories start kind of a thought. I mean, Nate and I went through rounds with where stories
Yeah.
live, where stories are, where stories, so I like the thought of around where stories begin or start, kind of a situation. So those are really great feedback. Anybody else?
I have
Oh,
one
yeah,
more
sorry, go ahead.
history. Like one of the things I noted, one of the banner images of the Argo, and it says 1859. And it's like, no, Argo starts building in 1893, so I think we need to be, I know this is weird nitpicky stuff, but I think we need to be cautious about implying something is older than it is, or.
Well, and again, just
Yeah,
remember,
and I know it was
these
just
are
kind of
just
an
like
idea, but I'm
examples,
just
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
please don't follow through in this version of that idea.
Yeah, well, and I mean, all marketing and branding and anything that's gonna go into print or
Yeah.
up on the internet or
When we get
anything
to
like
the content
the
stage.
board will
Yeah.
be reviewing that and making sure that those things are in a line that we're not just gonna be.
I think we could have a lot of fun with campaigns, like playing off the old piece, like we're damn old, but we've still got Riz or whatever the kids, like, I
Yeah.
hate that word. My son says it all the time. It's super cringy, but we could have fun with it to kind of keep it fresh, but still play off of the history and however far back it goes.
Awesome, any other comments?
One more board member.
Oh, yeah, sorry, Jean, comments. Here. No, yeah, all right. Jan.
Again, I have a problem with the IDA scope.
Yeah.
It doesn't represent us.
Yeah, how would you recommend shortening our name?
I wouldn't recommend shortening it. It is what it is.
Or just the Idaho abbreviation.
Yeah, how do we shorten it?
So the CDOT,
Yeah,
I know we may not follow CDOT, but CDOT does Idaho SPRGS. You look at a lot of the highway signs.
Yeah.
Not recommending that, but they do that with Colorado Springs, Idaho Springs.
I mean, we can choose to leave the shortened version out of everything. Again, these are just choices of variation. No, a variation is officially adopted. What we're adopting is the strategy, the look, the typeface. And if we're not in a spot where we need to adapt or adopt to give the board an understanding, we will need to send this back for one more revision. If that's how the board goes, that will cost us more money. Because we've maxed out our revisions already at this point with Nate. And this is now to the point where we are kind of at a crossroads of we adopt and make some additional changes. Obviously, after we adopt, we can make some revisions and changes before we say, hey, this is the final. This puts us in a position now where we're waiting on all of this to be adopted before we can start building a website and getting the website skinned and developing assets and content to start that process. We are going to be wireframing the website, just building it basically like what's the page structure and all that stuff. That work is starting now. But all the other stuff would have to be wait until we get through this adoption of this. Let me see.
I'm curious, is Nate still on?
Yeah, Nate's still on.
Nate, what are your thoughts on some of the feedback that you're hearing?
Yeah.
And is it reasonable? Is it like too tedious? What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, no, everything is fantastic feedback. Again, we know we try to sell in what we have for as little context as you have as well, right? So there's some of the strategy work, and I would say, Sadie, if you want to pass that to anybody to kind of look through, there's a lot of key things that we did identify that we wanted to make sure that we were and were not. Again, adding the mountains, putting a literal picture of the mountains kind of falls away from that authenticity and that kind of tourist for us. I think there's definitely ways to do it, absolutely. But I just wanted us to kind of make sure that we're thinking about that, right? We don't want to be Breckenridge and we don't want to be Summit County as a whole. So how can we do that without being literal sometimes? So I think the feedback is fantastic. We looked, again, the abbreviation, for example, we looked at ISCO, and Steve and I talked about this a while ago, like what is ISCO? It's like, okay. So we just needed a little bit more variation of it. The date itself, one thing I did want to bring up, why we were leaning into that date is because, again, it's who we are in that history, right? 1859 is us. Yes, there are many stories that go above that and beyond that and behind that, but we really wanted to establish us as that history, right? Something that is authentic to us, and then be able to bring in that new kind of feeling. So again, there's lots to identify if we like imagery or not imagery or whatever it may be, but that date is definitely something that we looked at as heritage and historic, and as, again, being that one of those brand pillars that we want people to feel like they're in that story. I think that's kind of, that's all I have. For the brand, or where stories live, begin, start. I think those are variations that are absolutely great to look at and see how it lives and to stress test it. For us, the stories live part, we settled on that because it had that feeling, that little bit of aspirational, right? It feels old because it's, stories were here, they were told, but it feels new because they're alive, right? We're alive. We're telling these stories to people. And that's kind of what that kind of feeling that we wanted to come across, that, there's more than just an old photo or a mining or something. There's all sorts of things that are happening. So stories really start and then they live here, right? So that was kind of the background to where stories live a little bit more. But again, happy to answer any more questions. Feedback was great. It's all great feedback. I know everybody's seeing it for the first time too, or most people.
So what you're saying, Sadie, is we either adopt this now and there's some small changes that can happen, or we have to go back for more revisions, which is going to cost money.
Yeah, I think Nate has maxed out his revisions at this point for what we've budgeted that we would spend on this. I'm sure he would be happy to do another hard revision on it. We are kind of at that crossroads point where projects won't be able to move forward, which will continue to delay our timeline on execution of other things you guys have directed me to get up and running, such as the website, branding, and any kind of other things. I do feel like, and maybe Nate, please tell me if I'm speaking out of turn, that simple things like maybe narrowing, out the boldness in the mark and giving us some alternatives in that wouldn't constitute a full revision. I So some of those like low lying things we might be able to change without needing a full revision. But if the board is not comfortable with a adoption of where we are right now, then yeah, we would need to get the full revision and go back again and bring it back to you.
It's just hard to know if we adopt it, if the revisions, how are they gonna happen? How far do they go? I mean, like, it's great, it's going in the right direction, but I still think there's some tweaking to be done.
Yeah, I mean, it's up to you guys, however you guys wanna proceed. I just wanna make sure you have all the information so that you understand. If we send it back for a full revision to get those tweaks, the next time I can present this to you is in May. So that will be May, we present it for adoption, which means that a full website build out with what we're talking about is at least 3 months. So that will push us out until the end of summer before we would even have a website up and ready, which would then also push out a few other additional projects, such as our advertising campaign that we would want to be doing for the off season starting in the fall areas. So those would be the projects that would be pushed back. To answer your first question about how would you know, I would happily report back via email, and I don't know how we do that. I mean, we could notice for like a spur meeting that we could do virtually. So we could notice a meeting for the official board to show you kind of the low hanging fruit revision. So we could motion to adopt with action items, right? Is that how that would work, Andy?
I think so.
Okay.
And so basically what we're kind of approving today is like the typeset, the color, the mark. Like those are really the things.
That's
that
all we're approving. Yeah. You're not approving anything of the visual
Like
mark.
that's how you're using the typeset, even just like, this is the typeset we're using, no matter what words or dates or elevations we use.
None of that
And
is
the colors and the mark.
literally the type, the font itself, the mark, and again, it could be with these, minor edits. And again, so it would be the typeface mark, which the Idaho Springs, and that typeface. The standard typeface, which you see below where stories live. Yeah, thanks, Nate. So it would be those two things, and then the actual font itself that we would be using in things, and then the brands. And then we would start bringing to you it in examples in marketing packages and those things. Chris?
So I'm not a website person. I'm not a marketing person. Heck, I don't market for my own business, so how do I expect to do it for a whole town? My question is, how would holding for a revision here pause the website that much?
Oh, because the website is completely designed and held off of everything that's in this package. This package controls the colors that are on the website, the typeface that's on the website, the logo. I mean, what can be built is the framework, but
Yeah.
all the graphic design, all the skinning of the website, all will be designed off of this brand
Gotcha,
strategy.
okay.
Without an official adoption, I can't have people working on that, because then we would be double.
You kind of have to remake it basically, right? Because you'd be putting a new image in every spot that you plugged already.
Exactly. So all we can really do until this is adopted is build a framework for the website, which says, this is gonna be the homepage, this is how many pages are gonna be off the homepage, like just a wireframe structure design is, and we are currently starting that work. But the skinning of it, the actual look, which will take the most time. This is a pretty complex website build, and we're doing it through local contractors. Who also all have full-time jobs and are business owners in this community. So, that, all of that skinning, all of that graphic design, all of those things will have, a large, it's gonna take,
Okay.
it's a big lift. We are, once, my next ask of the board would be, as we get moving, once this is done, I would say we would have version 1 go live of the website. That would maybe just have the homepage, an events page, and maybe one or so other small pages, so we could have version 1 of the website go live sooner. That would at least have something going, and then as we develop all the back end stuff, we could do a version 2 full launch of the website.
I kinda like that.
So
I kinda like that because that doesn't slow us down, but I think it would be important to take a little bit more time to make sure, this is a big investment.
Yes,
I think we need to take this back to council at the next, work session,
Okay,
just to make sure they're in the loop, they get some input, hear what the recommendation is here. It sounds like we have pretty good consensus here. A lot of this is the overall concept, the colors, the type font. I'm not hearing any opposition to that. I'm hearing a lot of, unanimity. So I think we can run with that. And if that's possible, do what you just said, is to maybe kind of coming soon type thing, and we start building it, and then we start plugging in what's been adopted. Is that, if that's possible?
we could
Maybe.
do, that would be up to the board whether or not you're comfortable with us using some of the elements of this without it being adopted, which, you know, that's up to you guys, because then if you make large sweeping changes and we have to go back and change a bunch of stuff, that's obviously gonna cost us more money, because all of our current contractors for websites are charging us per hour. You know, everybody's discounting it, you know, thank you to Kent, Playmaker is helping us significantly, and Ross Breyer is helping significantly, Jason as well, Valdez is also in this team, they're all willing to charge us a discounted hourly rate to do this work. But again, if we go without kind of an adoption, I agree, bringing it in front of council, making sure they're comfortable. It's just kind of up to you guys how you want me to proceed. I can use elements of all of this without the fully delivered brand package to kind of get us going, to have some basic skin up on a website for like a homepage coming soon and maybe an events page. However, I'm not sure how many revisions.
I like the way that you're presenting it, like you're looking for a vote on the font and the color scheme and the tone.
Yeah.
But other things can be worked after that.
Nate, are you, yeah, I'm getting a head nod from Nate on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
That's-
100%.
Going
And
to,
oh.
like, I think what we saw today is great, and I'm just wondering, based on the feedback, and I'm fine with the mark as well, but I like the suggestions that were provided. Maybe if we can pay Nate for the revision of just maybe doing like 3 options of the mark, but we're approving today the colors, the fonts and all of that.
Okay, Nate,
yeah,
And if we can do
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
I don't know if we're allowed to do that, but if we don't have to wait till May to
we could do a
finalize the
special,
mark.
we could do a special meeting for the mark itself.
And you could do all virtual.
Yeah, we could
Just do a
do,
virtual.
we could do a
special meeting.
virtual special meeting to just approve the mark, so we could remove the icon mark and say comfortable with the color, the tone, the typeface. And then have a second meeting for a revision on the mark itself.
It's good to have that written down and to vote.
I mean, I don't wanna be nitpicky where we hold up too much, cause I'd say like it's costing us money not to have a website as well.
Yeah, it is.
I think it's definitely going in the right direction and clearly has been really thoughtfully put together, so.
And I will say, when you have 20 plus people all with different styles and design and taste, we could do this for the next 2 years trying, so, yeah.
We don't
I-
wanna get bogged down in the
Right.
You,
design.
it's, you
At some
can
point,
easily
you
get
gotta
bogged down and the
just
next thing
move
you know, you
forward.
spent a ton of money and, so I think the work that's been done is really great, and I love the feedback from today, which it sounds like Nate could work with that pretty easily.
Okay, I have one more comment on Line Rose, go ahead. Oh, you gotta unmute Gloria.
Yes, thanks. Just 2 questions. One, is there going to be a mobile? Is it going to be optimized for mobile also?
Absolutely, it will be optimized for mobile.
And then the second thing is just more, the only thing that sort of caught my eye is in the main logo, the spacing between the 18 Colorado 59 that just feels a little wide and off to me. The fact that there's such a big gap just looks a little visually off to me. I don't know what your thoughts are about that, to play with that, however.
Yeah, I hear you. I think a lot of the spacing is brought off of the whole design element. So again, you know, the more we get so many eyes on one thing, we can't make so many edits, but I hear you on, you know, making sure the spacing is consistent and easy to read is important. A lot of this also you have to realize hasn't gone through like full accessibility testing. So once we start applying things on imagery and on actual assets that will go up content, then it has to go through accessibility testing, which might make, again, some initial changes that we might have to go through based on colors or spacing, make sure it's easily read and translate to state standards for accessibility. So once we get through adoption, then we start content development, and in content development is where we start testing accessibility. Any other questions, Rose?
Yep,
Okay.
that's good.
And Sadie, I had one last thing, if you don't mind. I do know that was it Travis and Beth? They're not on here anymore. So if they want to email me directly, if you want to pass them.
I know who that is, and we'll set up an email train to address that. That's Travis Cook. From
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So-
Okay. Then I'll email Travis directly, but just for everybody, as to kind of grasp that it's not this whole highway and license plate thing. He said that he couldn't wrap his head around leaning on that, and typography. That whole idea and that inspiration is taken from what we learned that, you know, Idaho Springs has always been that like pass through town or that stop, right? And so it kind of was that play on this traveler and this idea that it all started with the stop or a discovery, or, you know, stopping at Bojo's or Tommyknocker throughout all these years. So it was kind of that inspiration of that kind of what that actually meant to us and how we can kind of build off of that.
Frankly speaking, I think the fact that there were 18 people in this room and we have nitpicky little items, we don't have big, I don't like that, it's little nitpick things. I think we've done pretty good. Frankly, if we're voting on color, font texture, et cetera, and then slimming it down in the future, I'd say you guys are ready for a vote to move forward or not.
So I kind of wrote this up, and Andy, I'm gonna rely on you here to think this covers our bases. So the motion could be, what I'm hearing from the board is motion to approve the brand identity and strategy for the city of Idaho Springs as prepared by Ember, with the understanding the icon mark will be revised to be adopted at a later date via virtual meeting. Does that cover kind of that adopts everything else except for the icon mark?
Although I think I heard that there might be a couple other little tweaks here and there that might not be made.
Well, those tweaks would be more just how it's executed and used versus actually editing the physical components of the strategy. From
Like the tagline could be.
Yeah, like the tagline could be where stories begin. That's more in execution of the identity, not in actual, really what's being adopted is the mark or the type mark, the font, the colors. That would leave off the icon mark. And with those things, we could then send a revision of the icon mark for.
And also, because he said it again, is like the history did not start with the license plate. It was before that.
Oh, yeah.
Because it seems like he's leaning on that a little bit as far as your need. So trying to incorporate that into the overall picture.
Well, I think that's so much in the execution of the strategy, you know, I think that's using it in the content pieces is make sure that, like Chris said, referencing, you know, the history didn't just start here, like history started before those kind of, and that's it telling those stories. So in utilization of the strategy and the identity to tell those.
But the license plate's an important part of the story.
Yeah, and the only thing that is
Right.
inspiring the license plate is that primary type mark. Other than that, there's nothing else that's being used off of that license plate, just that primary Idaho Springs type mark. The font itself is, can you go to the font page, Nate?
Yes.
So that they can see that one more time.
Let me find it. There we are.
So this is the font and how it would appear. So this would be the font that would be used in marketing graphics. This would be the font that would be used. So again, it doesn't look like a license plate font. This is the font that would, and it's a free font, which is nice. You don't have to pay to use it, which is really nice. So this is a free font that we would be able to access and use on our website and all of our marketing materials. And it's different versions, italicized, bold, uppercase, lowercase. So again, so the motion, and this motion would then allow us to kind of start getting moving on a lot of things. Nate could revise the icon mark with a few variations. We could bring that back to you guys for adopting the official icon mark. And then from there, we could start moving forward. But this might give us a little bit of movement so that I can get things like the colors and the typeface and all that started on the website.
And as far as the city adopting it, is there any considerations there? Is there?
That would have to go, the mark itself would have to go to city council.
Yeah,
for adoption.
I think the time is right to give an update to council on this. It's, you know, city put money towards this. I just think, I just want to make sure we're all together on this and make sure they have, that they're also sharing the recommendation of this board to go forth and then, because that's, when we enter that next stage, that's a big deal.
Yep.
And, we're kind of committed to it. So if it's possible to get the mark revised before the next council meeting, that'd be great. Maybe we can have that special meeting or send, you know, you can even send it around, I think, Sadie, I think rather than a meeting, unless the meeting is necessary, you could even, if Nate's able to revise it in a couple of weeks and you just send it around and everybody vote, you know, weigh in online, at least we have some indication of what this board likes going to council, you know, to address, you know, making it skinnier or whatever it is. That makes sense. So I think we, you know, if council's good with it or only has a few changes, I think then we can, you know, proceed.
Okay,
And that's the way I see it. But I'd hate there to be like a fatal flaw or just something that's really causing pause, you know, and we've already proceeded. So I think it's only a few more weeks. I know, you know.
Right.
But
No, I mean, it's just,
it's a big deal. I mean,
Yeah, oh,
we're-
absolutely.
And it's gonna, hopefully we'll be with us for quite a while.
Yeah, okay. So then what I'm hearing is we're gonna table the motion till we see the revision, just in general.
I think you could go ahead with the motion.
Okay.
You had it, and then what I'm saying is just do maybe a little email poll of everybody before the next council meeting, and you know, when we're getting ready to present and say, hey, you know, we had this meeting, we liked just about all of it. We wanted to change the icon, we did some revisions with Nate, and here's what we came up with, just so you know, and send it to you.
Okay,
How about that?
yeah, that
Yeah.
seems fair. What board thoughts, considerations, does that work? Okay, Nate,
And just
Council-
one other thing, if it needs to come back here one more time, you know, you have a board meeting, this board meeting right after the next council meeting.
because when's the next council meeting?
Be the second Monday in May.
So the second Monday in May, Nate, would be the 12th.
And then the third Monday, of course, is this board meeting. So really, we could get kind of the final review of everything and, you know, go, no go. Like, at that
Okay.
meeting, I think so.
Yeah.
I know it's not a month, but I think it'd be good just to take a little more time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and again, from the website wireframe structure, if we're comfortable with a lot of like the type and all those things, I can get a lot of that work done. Or started at least on the initial pages and page design of things. Okay, so to review, the motion would be to approve the brand identity and strategy for the city of Idaho Springs prepared by Ember. With the understanding the icon mark will be revised to be formally adopted into the package at a later date.
I would so move.
Okay, and a second,
I'll second.
Katie second. All right, all in favor?
All right.
All right.
Can I
Wonderful.
ask one question while Nate's still alive?
Yeah,
So for many years, our tagline has been where the gold rush began.
uh-huh.
So do we see that able to continue with everything, with all this new branding?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay, so it's not necessary necessarily to say, okay, out with that, you know, we're gonna do away with that, okay.
No, I don't think
Just because
so.
a lot of, you know, that, there's a lot of, history and a lot of attachment, I think,
It does.
to that.
It does help make it so it seems like it started before license plate.
Well, and also I think that like where the gold rush began is a part of the stories. Again, the gold rush is a story in and of itself. I think they actually kind of go one into the other. We're not asking to get rid of anything we're already doing. I think we're building upon what we already have there.
Okay.
Nate, would you agree? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty, so that moves us there. Everything else that is on our agenda, it looks like we lost all those participants because they told them that they'd probably get passed to the next agenda. But I wanted to let you guys know that Clear Creek County Arts and Education has offered to co-partner in a lot of activation on Minor this summer, which is awesome, is giving us access to all of their artists and their network, as well as their kind of organizational support in getting things activated. They are also looking for a fundraising opportunity, which they were going to kind of present tonight, which is a water bottle, an Idaho Springs branded water bottle purchase, a bulk purchase of water bottles that if the businesses wanted to put logos on those water bottles, there was a couple of different options where you put your logo on the water bottle and then purchase a certain number of water bottles that then you could sell and at a normal water bottle price, and essentially you would be making money on your donation. So there's a whole presentation that goes along with that, and I'm probably speaking to it, not right? Is that you understand kind of what it is? So I'll be sending out an email kind of letting everybody know about that offering. They're planning on wanting to be able to sell these water bottles throughout the summer and businesses being able to sell these water bottles throughout the summer. So that will kind of formally, we'll be discussing that via email, but really mainly the main thing to update you guys on is that we'll be partnering with them throughout the activation season, which is really great. The block parties they've got, we kind of worked on, they were already planning on wanting to activate on Minor, and we were like, why don't we put them
What's
at
an
the
example
same time?
of what they do?
So for example, on the first block party on July 16th, we're gonna have a like a performer theme. So there'll be carnival performers coming. There will be a contortionist coming so it will be kind of themed, adding in their performers. For the 1500 block party on August 13th, we were going to be doing kind of like a chalk art theme. So they'll be bringing up a chalk artist. For some of the bigger events, they were for Taste of Idaho Springs, for example, we were thinking tastes of art, and they were kind of going to do like an art walk style installation along Minor, featuring a bunch of different artists being able to present and living art, painted art, tasted art, kind of Taste of Idaho Springs theme from that. So each kind of event has kind of developed its own little theme into different performances that will be a part of those events. They also are going to be hosting a film series at the Annex, co-sponsored with Mountain Prime, so people can go to Mountain Prime, get dinner and drinks, and then go watch a movie over at the Annex. So just kind of some of those things to activate the whole summer season along Minor is kind of how that will be working. We're well into planning the summer season. 4th of July is almost completely booked for music acts. We're finalizing that. And all the activations throughout the season are in full planning mode. So that's where we're at on all that. Any questions or anything else? Nate shared his email address if you guys have any specific questions for him. He's happy to answer those if you need his email address or to walk through the strategy. He said he's happy to field any of those things. His email address for those online is in the chat. For you guys, I'll send out his email address as a contact if you guys have questions specifically around this strategy. All right. Okay, so the next thing is some updates from businesses. Kind kind of do our traditional little roundtable update from businesses, and then I'll let you start, Steve.
Year to date, we're up, but, we're up on food, down on beverage a little bit, and a little bit up. And, week over week, we're down over this same past week as last year.
Okay. Yeah. What about you, Janine? Any updates from the business? Kind of slow, yeah. Katie?
Pretty much the same for me. I am about the same as I was last year, probably about 5% under.
Awesome, thank you, Janine. Katie?
The tap house is kind of irrelevant just because we're so in our infancy. We're up what we were last year because we were so brand new, so it's kind of hard to be below that. So there we're not really feeling anything. It's always up on the rise. The barbecue though, I mean, we've been a little up and down and we've noticed it being slower. So, but we feel it in Denver too. So I just think it's the economy. I honestly don't know if it's I-70 just affecting. I honestly just think it's a lot of things. And so for both businesses, we're kind of stagnant. It was where we were from last year. This last weekend, we were down from what we were last year. Couldn't tell you if it was the weather, or if it was whatever, you know. Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell. But we're okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Leanna?
Yeah, I mean, similar in that we're still so new, but, we do have 20% occupancy for summer right now, which is good for us. And
Mhm.
so it's up where we were last year at this time, and April's actually been much better for us than we expected, so that's
Same.
nice. Yeah, like we expected it to be more like November, and it's actually been more like March, which is kind of nice to see, so, yeah.
Sarah?
Yeah, my April's been better than March. So like that was kind of nice. I think some spring breaks were later. I don't know.
Tax returns being made.
Yeah.
Maybe I was gonna say, I don't know that any of the people I've seen are spring breakers, but I am agreeing with everything you said. Chris?
For the Slaymaker sellers, just like everybody else said, it's like, I don't know, I don't have a good reason. Fun stuff, we are having our 5th anniversary party this year, so keep your eyes open for more details. On a Scraps to Soils note, because I think almost everyone is also involved with that. It appears we have found renters for every single plot in the garden this year. And so the garden's going, and then one of my other hats, because I'm on the skateboard, for everybody who contributed to the gala, thank you immensely. I think it was a big success. I know we definitely got some money out of it. I know we still have a little, I know there's still more funding to secure, but it was a dent and it's incredibly appreciated.
Okay.
So thank you if you came, you bought a ticket, you donated stuff. It really, really matters. So thank you.
I was very impressed by how involved the young people were in the event and how they took the leadership in the whole evening's festivities, and a lot of them were very articulate too. So I thought that really spoke well for the whole effort. Yeah.
And on that, I know there are some kids who were part of the initial going to the school board, restarting it. They have graduated and they showed up even to work it, even though they may or may not, they might not be here that much longer to use the park, and they're still showing up and doing stuff.
That's awesome. That's so good to hear. Cool. Any updates from the crowd?
No.
Dan?
The Historical Society had a really good March.
Good. Continue to see increased numbers at the visitor center. And you guys have your gala coming up.
Yes, May 16th at Blackstone Rivers Ranch. And the tickets are $100. If you can, try to carpool because they have limited parking, like everybody else.
Chris, thanks for coming. First meeting. I appreciate you
I
coming.
appreciate you having me.
Yeah.
I am having a rough April.
Yeah.
Everybody I've spoken to up and down the street, because you guys are my clients, you know. Everybody seems to be having a rough April, so, hopefully May, June, July will be better.
Where are you from?
I do property services, so,
Okay.
if you have leaky faucets, lights go out, your ceiling tiles need to be replaced, any of that stuff, my company takes care of it.
Gotcha.
And I work with a couple of companies on the main drive here, Sadie's being one of them.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Okay.
You replaced my sink, it was amazing. Very,
And
and
your
all the tile and
And your hot water
surrounding.
heater and her tile.
Yeah.
My guy's gone, so I'll take your card.
Yeah, he's amazing.
You
And
have too many Chris's.
yeah, and very affordable, which is always
I'm not sure
helpful.
if I do.
For those folks online, anybody, Alex, Bojos, anybody have an update they want to share?
I mean, like everyone else, it's kind of down from last year in April. I do think some of it is weather related. Friday obviously wasn't the best for us, but yeah, from what I hear from a lot of our vendors, it's not even just Idaho Springs, it's a lot of their routes seem to be down. So I definitely feel like it's part of the economy.
Anyone else online want to share a business update? Oh, and Alex, before I lose you, just a reminder on returning in your encouragement permit, please.
Okay, yes, I will get that for you.
I think everybody in this room has turned theirs in, so I don't have to be too, but anybody else, just a reminder, send in your encouragement permits. Has someone else online want to give an update?
Hey, Christy here from Uplift Inn and Lift Landing. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Christy.
Awesome. We have a few weeks left of our seasonal housing program for Loveland. And so they have a few more weeks of opening, I believe. And then the lift operators and food and beverage managers that live at our facilities will start phasing out. And I'm happy to report that our reservations for this upcoming summer were up over last year for where we were with bookings right now. And we're really attributing a lot of that to the wedding season. Like the wedding weekends are really booming for us. So we're looking forward to an exciting summer.
Awesome. Thank you, Christy. Anyone else online want to provide an update? Okay. All righty. Any other open floor conversations, anything brought to attention anybody need to talk about?
I was mayor still here, I just wanna say thanks again for the do not enter sign modification. Can't imagine, every time I walk up there and look, it's just a whole different look to me.
Yeah. That does look a lot less like.
Where was it?
On
All
all,
the do not enter signs on Main Street.
Oh, yeah.
They don't look like construction signs anymore. They're more pedestrian zone friendly.
Speaking of that, have we thought about last year's proposal?
Because of, yeah, you and I need to talk about that
Okay.
offline. I think we have a good path forward for that.
Yeah, and the bear cans are awesome. I haven't
I
seen
saw
any
those.
ravens partying out there eating french fries, so.
Yeah, we are working on a proposal and it's in, actually, that is one thing I did miss, kind of some guidance from you guys. And I think we'll probably all have the same thing. You know, what we had talked about was originally in the historic district, us working on kind of created branded package for the trash cans using some historic imagery of that block, as well as maybe one side featuring the new brand and some information. Then the conversation was brought up that those trash cans are citywide, so they're not just in the historic district. And we, city councils and city staff is kind of looking for some guidance on your guys' thoughts. Should it be consistent throughout? Should the Visit Idaho Springs brand be used consistently throughout? Should we make sure that that imagery is kind of, again, like Andy said, adopted to be used on anything that's kind of forward facing, that's out in the community?
I think the branding is good, but I know you mentioned historic images. I think it would be really cool if we went more with like a leave no trace or some mild conservation theme, or how to be a good tourist or visitor might be a really way to do it.
Well, one thing is to note that they do have a lot of sides.
They do have a lot of sides.
And to cover the whole thing in historic imagery would be rather expensive. So it's a possibility, again, we have a vinyl sign guy in town that's willing to help us partner and wrap the trash cans. So it's a possibility to kind of do a broad approach where the tops could be different than the rest of it. Everybody else, thoughts?
I think it should absolutely go through town because I think it's completely understated on that side of town. And I've said it before, even just from like the roundabout down to here, it's kind of like, yeah, not much thought is put into anything, like on the streetlights, there's no imagery, there's nothing. And then like you go to Georgetown and all the way right when you pull to Georgetown, all the way until you get into downtown, they have signs on their light poles. They have everything decorated from the roundabout all the way to downtown. And you know, they just added all the light poles down to Cabot Creek, which I'm sure this year will utilize that too. But I think that that side of town just gets forgotten about when it comes to anything like that. So there's hardly any trash cans on that side of town when you're walking. You pick up a lot of trash. There's no signage when it comes to any of the light poles or anything like that. When it comes to flowers or anything, it pretty much stops after here. It doesn't go down there. So I absolutely think it should, because, you know, I just think it's kind of frumpy on that side of town, so.
Yeah. I like the idea of being consistent too. I think that that's a good, it's good for messaging, and also it just kind of trains people, like, this is the thing you do, this is where you put your trash. You don't leave it out and about. It makes it where people recognize that, so.
Yeah, the next trash can isn't 2 blocks down. You know what I mean? Like if there was one every block or every other block, that would be nice.
We're more in the park too, like for as many are downtown, I noticed the park only has like 2. Right, maybe 3.
I think there's 3 in.
There's one on like
CRC.
every single block over here. I was just thinking maybe the way it moves them.
I think because of the amount of traffic we're gonna have from the bikers and pedestrians being on that side of town too, there has to be waste station. I mean, anything, like I bought one personally just for my property because there's so much like people let the dogs out all the time out there. I'm just like, great. So, but just having that and having the accessibility, because if it's not there at all, people will not pick up after themselves, but there, if it is there, at least some of them will.
Mhm.
So.
One plus the community garden would be really appreciated.
Like
Just
even,
close, you don't need to put it in there.
like from where you park, you have to go all the way to the bathroom, I think, to throw it away.
Yeah.
Where they are.
Now, if I remember speaking to Paul, that was, no, not Paul, Willie. That was just stage 1 of what we purchased. Is that true, or is that?
I think they were just replaced, the existing cans were replaced.
Okay.
So if there's a thought about changing how they're deployed, I think that certainly can be discussed. But
Yeah.
I believe we have most of them out there that we got under the grant.
Yeah.
But those are paid mostly by a grant we got from CPW.
Yeah.
So we could certainly look at a plan for expansion. Yeah.
Because I agree on the east end with that, we'll continue to need extra support on the east end with the increased traffic on that side. So I guess I'm hearing a consensus from the board that a consistent imagery, consistent look is important for a unified vision. And if we're spending all of this money and continued revisions on a brand, make sure it's consistent across all aspects where it's applied, is what I'm hearing. Is that what you're kind of looking for, Andy? Okay, so do you want me to put that in my report to council when I present to them, or do you want me to internalize that with you and Guy, and you guys can go from there?
I think we do need to discuss it. I mean, I think, you know, do we want to do historical images? Do we want to put the new branding on there? Do we want to change it up periodically? Do we want to have certain messaging? So
Mhm.
I'd like to keep the conversation going, even if we don't have a consensus on it or a decision on it.
Yeah, I mean, I think as long as we're continuing the conversation forward, so we just kind of internally start that conversation before we bring an official fact, but at least we know kind of what the consensus is from here. Okay, cool.
Hey,
Yes,
it
Jan.
was mentioned to me this morning by Donna Davis that she has sat at Citizens Park. And basically, people are kind of lost at that point. They kind of look around and, well, where is this? Where is that? A wayfinding sign at that location would be a really good idea.
Absolutely, and that's definitely one of the key areas that's identified as we start into our next phase. So once brand is adopted and all that, then we will be kicking off, which this will just slow us down a little bit, but we have a long time for the grant timeline. The grant officially kicks off May 1st, which is designed for a wayfinding strategy, which will identify all the key places where wayfinding needs to be, what it will look like, and what needs to be addressed, all the way from end to end, looping in all the new key components in that conversation. So that's just, again, the strategy, and then we'll be looking at ways to address actual execution of how to actually put up signs. But first one, identify and strategize. Then part two, execute strategy. So that is definitely already been identified as a key
Great.
spot that
Okay.
needs to be addressed for sure. We can note that the tourism is moving over to the visitor center now.
Yes.
Okay.
And the kiosk is now installed in the visitor center, and it's wonderful. We encourage everyone who has a business to come in and check out your line and see if everything is correct. And, you know, just play around with it. It's a lot of fun.
I have to get going. I have to get my kids.
Nope.
So,
I think that's it. We're
Okay.
actually I believe we are at the end unless there's anything else, Andy. All right.
No, just Minor Street closes to traffic, vehicle traffic next Monday morning.
Next Monday morning.
Question, like, on here you have.
We're gonna be street sweeping for that.
That's what that whole week is gonna be.
It starts on the 29th. That's Tuesday.
Okay,
Monday's still actually closed.
thank you, yes. Hopefully Scott and I can make it to Gala. I haven't been one since.
That's just what Paul.
Well, we haven't had one since 2019.
I know, Mary Jane.